am Amalia, and you're looking at Growth Factor, my show, as well as Joey's show. He's got Carnivore, Camaraderie, and is growing so fast. So I recommend you subscribe to him, of course, and subscribe to me. And we have David here today. The reason we're all here is I used to be a vegan, then a vegetarian because I thought meat is bad. I'm going to get a heart attack, colon cancer. And it turns out I started getting anxiety and doom. And not only that, I couldn't give blood to the Red Cross too often. I had to always remember, okay, I got to eat meat a few days before or they would reject me. I couldn't even give blood because I was so low in iron. So we could talk about that a little later. I want to start first with David because he has been, and correct me, David, if I say it wrong, he's from Colorado. He has an incredible history of breaking records in terms of muscle and bench pressing and sports. So he'll tell us a little bit about that. So he's been very successful going in and out of eating meat, being vegan, vegetarian. Can you tell us the benefits of vegan, vegetarian, and what else has gone on in your life, David?
Sure. Well, I didn't start becoming a vegetarian or a pescatarian. I guess that's more accurately, although I don't eat a lot of fish either. I was in college. Meat was really expensive, and a 19 cent, that's how much it was, like 19 cents per can for tuna. That was often my meal. That was my protein. And, I didn't really, I couldn't tolerate eggs. So I just started switching into just starting to eat fewer and fewer meats. And in 1984, I just stopped eating them altogether. And I should say red meats. And I never ate pork because I didn't like the taste of it. And goat, well, most people in the United States don't eat goat, although a lot of the world does. We don't. It's probably a healthier food for us, but meat, red meat, no, I just started eliminating it. But I got to say, I think it's really beneficial for people while their bodies are still growing that they get red meats. I encouraged I have 3 sons. I encouraged them to eat anything they wanted. Joy and I were just talking. I don't think it's a good idea to eat a bunch of processed foods. I think that's horrible. I think, Joy brought up about seed oils. Seed oils are in everything and they cause inflammation and people don't know that. And, there's a ratio about seed oils, side note, omega-3s and omega-6s, those are, most people have heard about those. Omega-3s, those are the beneficial ones. Those are the ones that help, reduce just sicknesses and cancers and heart disease and everything. But then there's omega-6s and those are in the seed oils. The ratio used to be 1-to-1. And now today, for most people, it's 20-to-1. Well, recently I had a test on, mine is 67-to-1. So I started cutting back on those because that just sounds too high. And, and I know I'm getting a lot of omega-6s in there, even though I'm eating what I consider to be healthy food, healthy foods. It's worked for me. I think that, I think ideally people want to be an omnivore, and it's pretty much what I was for the first quarter. I want to hope if I live to be 100 quarter of my life, but I don't need it now. And and I've been, well, I'll give you some ideas. In the past 5 years I did, and this is mostly a vegetarian diet, but I would have fish probably twice a month. And I did this world's hardest one-day bike ride. It's called the Death Ride Tour. It's a fundraiser for Alzheimer's. It's down in Southwest Colorado. The one-day ride's 225 miles. It's 5 mountain passes, about 17,000 feet of elevation gain. The average elevation is over 8,000 feet. This is a tough ride. And for people 45 and over, I set the world record. I have the 4th fastest recorded time ever. That is basically me eating mostly, we're talking about proteins now, plant proteins, pea protein in particular. I ate rice protein for a lot of my life, but it tastes so bad. It's like wallpaper paste. Take some wallpaper paste, mix some extra water, drink it down, gag, and then go start my day. That was pretty common thing. But you and I have talked a little bit. I'm not completely against red meats, and and I don't think there's one perfect diet. I just people are going to supplement one way or another. And that's why I think being an omnivore is probably the best way to go, although I'm not doing it.
Okay. Do you mind if I spend this time trying to convince you to eat a bunch of red meat in the future? Can I try to do that?
You know, Amalia and I were talking about that. I would, and I thought, you know, because I love doing stuff. Like, well, maybe I'm doing this one regimen right now for like 6 more weeks. And then I'm thinking, well, why not try red meats?
Yeah.
Because right now I'm trying, you know, what did I buy just the other day? I bought grass-fed cow jerky, or I don't know what it was. And I had meat in Argentina in 1987 after 3 years of not eating meat. And I ate 2 bites because it's supposed to be this greatest beef in the world. Well, I woke up in the middle of the night throwing it up because my body doesn't create the enzymes anymore for me to digest it.
Yeah.
So I want to entertain that. It's like, all right, you know, I go from the philosophy and the lifestyle that do what works for you. And there's the ethical side of it. Okay, well, the problem that I have with vegans and vegetarians is instead of, you know, they talk about, well, I don't kill cows and I don't kill pigs and I don't kill chickens. Well, you're still killing worms, you're still killing mice, you're still killing anything that lives in the ground when you go plow up the ground. It's, you know, just because you can't see and it doesn't have a cute face doesn't mean it's not being traumatized and killed too. It's happening. So if that part of it is like, yeah, no, I know what's going on, and I believe we're the top of the food chain. You know, we are, but that doesn't mean, you know, I'm not putting off people who want to do it for ethical reasons. Fine, do it for ethical reasons. All right, good. But if your health is starting to submit to a lower level of living, maybe change.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you touched on it, but there is nothing ethical about veganism. I mean, we're losing billions of tons of topsoil every year. The soil is being destroyed due to veganism, and there's no ruminant agriculture to like repair the soil. And at this rate, we're not going to have any fields left for plant agriculture. It's an ecosystem that relies on both plants and animals to thrive. So veganism, I mean, yeah, it's terrible for the environment. People are under this misconception that it's not, but it is. So clearly you've been plant-based for a long time, and I'm sure there are reasons for that. But can I try to give some reasons why I believe carnivore is the best? And you can just give you can share your contentions, and I can try to address them, because I'm curious as to why you're like I know you're not against red meat per se, but you've refrained from eating it. So I'm wondering if I can just like put some ideas out there and you can give me your thoughts on them.
I would love to hear it.
Okay, cool. So every animal in nature eats their natural diet, clearly, right? Like lions eat gazelles and primates eat leaves, and they eat the diet that they've essentially eaten for as long as they've been that species. There hasn't been any deviation from that. While humans, it's very clear that we ate almost exclusively meat for millions of years up until 10,000 years ago. For about 99.7% of humanity, for throughout the genus Homo, we've been eating almost only meat with some plant vegetation only during times of starvation. So we would have only have eaten it when there was no animal food around. We would have 100% gorged on the animal food and then eaten the plants when like subsequent to the being deprived of meat. So given that, why is it that you think that humans consuming an unnatural diet, a plant-based diet, one that we aren't adapted to, is going to be best when everything in nature eats their own natural diet and thrives? Why is it that humans would do better on a novel diet? Why are we some sort of anomaly?
Well, first off, you know, we don't have a natural hunter except for ourselves. There's nothing out there hunting us to eat us. We're the only ones that really do that. You know, I don't know about 99.7% of the time. Is that what you said, that human beings? Let's
Well,
categorize.
right. So for the genus Homo, which is about, I think I want to say 4.5 million years, and then 10,000 of those years is the agricultural revolution. So 10,000 divided by that would be the percentage of time that we're eating plants due to agriculture. I don't know if it's 99.7. I did that number a long time ago, but that's what I recall.
Well, as I understand it, human beings, what we call Homo sapien and Homo sapiens sapien is about 200,000 years. The Homo
Right.
sapiens sapien is about 12,000 years.
I,
You
I,
know,
I, I was saying the genus Homo. So like Homo sapiens, you're right, like about 200,000, but the genus Homo, which is pretty close human ancestors, that's what I was more referring to. But go ahead.
well, I think well, first off, I think all the diets, or most of the diets right now, are messed up because there's so much an abundance of carbohydrates. And carbohydrates weren't something that were so readily available like they are today. I mean, to me, the amount of carbohydrates in the processed foods, this is like low income. I'm not being derogatory to anybody. This is like low income eating. This is poor junk, cheap calories. That's really what it is. And when I look at, one of the things that made me switch is I calculate what does a gram of fill in the blank protein cost me. If I go look at, say, well, one of the things I do miss, or I missed in the beginning, was what's that one steak, the tenderloin? No, I forget what it was. It was the best tasting meat though. and I don't get to eat that. It's what is it's on the T-bone. It's the
Ribeye? Filet, okay.
Yeah, it's the filet mignon. And that's like, oh my, that is great. But I haven't had that, I'm sure, since 1984. It hasn't been that long. And, so getting back to your question, I think human beings eat anything that's cheap because most people don't really think about what they eat. They just throw calories in their body and look at the obesity rates we have, the diabetes we have. And one of the proponents for going on vegetarian or a vegetarian type diet or a pescatarian diet is I believe a vegetarian diet is a 22% reduction in heart disease. And if it's a pescatarian diet, it's a 43% reduction in heart disease, the potential to get heart disease or cancer. I don't remember which one of those it is, but I do remember reading that. And the people that I was citing were Harvard, WebMD, the American Medical Association.
Yeah.
I forget who else, but so getting to your answer, it's like, I think people as they get older, and perhaps you will too. I guess I could present the same question to you. Do you imagine you'll be eating this 20 years from now or 40 years from now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Because like the way I look at it is it's the natural diet. I mean, I think that it's a pretty radical idea to suggest that the optimal diet for humans is one that's different than the one that we've evolved on. I think that's a pretty bold claim to say, because it would be suggesting that we're somehow different than every single thing in the animal kingdom, and that we wouldn't thrive on what we've eaten for millions of years. I just don't see that being realistic. Also, I just want to touch on like something that you really quickly said about the reduction in heart disease with vegetarian, pescatarian diets when we remove red meat. I just want to say that in a study like that, in addition to the removal of red meat, there's also a bunch of confounding variables where, as I'm sure you're relatively plant-based, and I'm sure you're a very, very healthy person. You do a bunch of healthy living practices. You probably don't drink much alcohol. You probably don't smoke. You probably get some sunlight. You're probably a happy guy. You do fun things in your life. You live a good life. And it's just not something that you could say about the meat eaters typically, because they tend to be the ones who go out and gamble and drink more and smoke, and that's
Meat
pretty.
eater?
It's yeah. The people who eat lots of red meat tend to partake in poor lifestyle choices typically, because they're not following the guidelines that are suggested by the government. Therefore, they're more likely not to follow other guidelines, if that makes sense. So it's a lot of just confounding variables that I want to say play into that. So like which is why I was also I was plant-based for certain amount of time, like a couple months maybe. For me, it just destroyed my health. So I went, I kind of dipped into ketosis and then carnivore plus fruit and then eventually full carnivore. But yeah, because I was persuaded by that data too, but as it turns out, it's just not, doesn't really hold up when you consider the actual variables that come into play when looking at those epidemiological studies.
No, no, and I really respect that. But you're also saying this, and this is not being disrespectful at all. You know, did you state how old you are?
Uh,
You're
I'm
18.
18. I'm 18. Yeah.
And I am 62 years old. And I think it's smart, and I think it's wise, and I think, you know, I would like more people to do more experimenting like you're doing as far as what their diets go. You know, go find out what works. You know, and if eating carnivore works for you, if you feel better, go do that. If you feel that mixing it up a little bit, throwing in fruits and vegetables, I mean, you know, do that. You know, in addition to your meat. You know, I find it interesting that you said that people who tend to eat red meats are a little bit, well, let me back up. So yeah, I meditate every day. I don't smoke. I drink on average once every 3 or 4 years. Not that I really have anything against it. It's like, I can be silly and happy without it. You know, I think it's basically a social lubricant for a lot of people. If I go out, I drink club soda. You know, it's so I have, you know, kind of done a pretty clean lifestyle, is what we consider a clean lifestyle. Have I had any problems with it? No. Yeah, you know, I don't. I think you know, the only thing that I have a lot of in my life is stress. And I think that my personal belief is, I think that causes more problems than what kind of food you're eating. I think stress does. You know, dis-ease. That's what it means, dis-ease. And, you know, so if we can, there's some ways that we can eliminate these problems we have and get more to ease, then yeah, our lives are going to be better. And if that means you're going to consume animals, well, just hope they, you know, you can run as fast as they do. You chase them down and eat them. Okay, go for it. But you know, again, because I'm old enough, certainly older than your parents, I'm sitting there thinking, well, Joey, maybe you want to. Okay, here's what I'm going to eat when I get done here. I have these organic blueberries. I have the organic raspberries. I have the organic cherries. I'm going to take my black sesame seed milk, pour it in there, put a little stevia monk fruit, blend it up like this little slushy, and I'm going to be happy eating that thing. and it has a lot of phytonutrients in it that I love. You know, I don't eat it for just because it's healthy. I eat it because it tastes great. It's sweet. You know, what's your stance on sugar, white sugar in particular?
Oh, I'm super against sugar. Not just the refined sugar, but also the sugar found in fruit and in any like glucose in general. Just because like it's a pretty well established biochemical implication of what glucose and fructose do. Just I mean they spike your blood sugar, and I mean, high blood sugar manifests as diabetes, glycation. I mean, you have some very resilient genetics. You have some outstanding genetics, I must say, because
Why do you say that? Why?
because a lot of people can't manage on a plant-based diet for that long. It's why like something like 90% switch within the first year from a plant-based diet to a meat eating diet, and it's not because of a lack of novelty. It's not like because it's too restrictive. There's thousands of plant foods that you can eat. It's not a matter of restrictiveness. They sacrifice they it's that those 10 foods, the chicken, the beef, the eggs, the fish, like it's the cheese, the small amount of foods that they can't eat are just the nutrients that their body is deprived of, which is why they go back 90% or more, even go back within such a short period of time. So I think you have, in addition to, of course, living a very you know, meditating and doing all these great things that are extremely healthy. I think you have some pretty outstanding, impressive genetic material too.
Yeah, well, you know, that's interesting because I have two brothers. They're younger brothers. One's a little more than a year younger, and the other one's about 3 years younger, and they eat meat. And my brother Scott, he eats a lot of meat. He's losing his hair, and he talks about his hair. You know, I'm still having I get my hair thinned out because it's so thick still. You know, is that genetics? Sure, it's got to be some genetics. But I also share the genetics with them. And then my youngest brother, Sam, you know, he's changed his diet quite a bit to, you know, to eat some more fruits and vegetables instead of, you know, just whatever, you know. And I mean, and I think that's been helpful for him. He was getting bruises and such on his body because, you know, staying so stuck in one type of way of eating. But again, there was a lot of processed foods too. So, you know, I don't know. I think my genetics are decent.
You know,
Yeah.
I do.
Joey's so bought into the carnivore way that and I lean more towards Joey because I was vegan, I was vegetarian. He's even eating on his show cow brain. And it looks like, I'm waiting to see what he said it tastes like. He said, tastes like egg. He didn't say chicken. I was surprised everyone else. Tastes like chicken. Everything tastes like chicken. But for me, when I was vegan vegetarian, I basically started kind of losing my mind. A lot of times I'd feel doom, I'd feel anxiety. So I want to ask you both about your gut, your mental state of mind, how you're doing generally, even the bathroom, you know, because that's related obviously to your gut. It's all related to inflammation. For me, I had inflammation of my brain. Other people, it's their gut, it's their joints. But I think what probably was going on with me is if you don't eat the red meats, you're missing heme iron, you're missing vitamin B12, creatine, carnosine, vitamin D3, DHA, taurine. There's so much that you can't get in fruits and vegetables. So perhaps that's why my mind was starting to not do well. But I want to ask you both from head to toe, how are you doing before, how you were, Joey, and how you were now? And then same with you, David, when you used to eat meat and you don't. Because I feel that stress you're talking about, David, possibly can melt away with these ingredients because I feel so much less stress and doom now that I increase my red meat drastically.
Yeah, well, we're all on the same page in that the real killers are the seed oils, refined sugar, like refined, or it's the refined processed stuff. Like we're all on the same page in that regard. And anyone who removes those, whether you remove it at the expense of meat or vegetables or fruits, like whatever, it's going to confer a benefit. So like we all can acknowledge that all that stuff, all the like the whole foods are better than the processed ones. In my case, since I did remove those bad foods, and you know, started eating meat and fruit, which is what I did for 6 months. I felt really good. I had clear mind. It was no more cooking with canola oil, and it was just like it was a game changer. But then I removed the fruit also. So after 6 months of meat and fruit, I removed the fruit, and I felt even better. It was like an even more of a boost. Yeah, I've just felt very good in every regard. I used to have some annoying skin issues, nothing debilitating, but yeah, just an overall life improvement. Yeah, which I just can I ascribe to the nutrient density and then the lack of processed stuff.
Can you describe, are you comfortable talking what kind of skin issues you were having?
Oh yeah, I had some pimples, and my skin was dry, so I had ashy skin, like really ashy. It was just really annoying. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I can hear all my black friends. Of course you're ashy. You gotta put some lotion on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you, David? Do you
I'm
feel,
sorry.
because it sounds like sometimes you have chicken and fish, but when you're really into your vegan, maybe you're doing lentils, rice, I don't know what you're doing, but sometimes when you're not having animal products, do you feel more stressed? Do you have problems in the bathroom, gut, skin, joints, anything?
Oh, yeah, that's right. No, I mean, I'm regular. I wake up in the morning, I have a bowel movement, 2, 3 o'clock, I have a bowel movement. I mean, and that is decades. It's done that. It's, you know, if I don't have one, I'm thinking, what happened? Because it's rare that I'm not regular. You know, I no, my gut you know, I've actually, some of my people around my age, they have a lot of gut issues. And I've even, you know, that whole fecal, you know, basically the people have to consume, you know, it's sterilized fecal matter that's ingested into a person's stomach so that the biome of our digestive system can get the nutrients and and it's like kickstarting again. It's been out for like 10 years that I know
Fecal
of.
transplant, I think is what you're saying. Fecal transplant?
Fecal transplant, yes, thank you. Yes. So, you know, so I mine's great. And, you know, and why? I don't know. You know, and it's kind of, it's kind of tempting to find out, like Joey, and AMALYA knows, I'm attempting to go bench press. You know, bench press is kind of a measure for a lot of men in particular. And if you can bench press your weight, that's like a great thing. Well, you know, at any age, and I'm going to try to bench. I weigh about 195. I'm going to try to bench press 300 pounds. I've been wanting to do that. I haven't done it since 2018, and I got really close, you know, recently. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, maybe I start taking some red meat and see what happens. Maybe it will push me into that threshold or over the threshold where I'm stuck right now. Maybe.
I think so.
Interesting because because real quick, it's like some of the things I did when I was around 230, 240 pounds, and I was a late bloomer, you know, in high school. I didn't play sports in high school. I walked onto this little school, Durango, Colorado, called Fort Lewis College. I wound up negotiating my own contract with the Broncos, and there were 5 teams that were interested in me. I'm bench pressing 535 pounds. I'm squatting 705 pounds. I'm deadlifting 680 pounds. I learned recently, those are all world records. And I'm eating meat. I'm eating everything. I'm having 10,000 calories a day because I'm trying to keep my weight on. You know, so, you know, and right after that, you know, I just said, I don't want to weigh 230, 240 pounds anymore. I stopped eating meat. I started running marathons and I lost a bunch of weight. You know, I've never really thought that meat had that much of influence on it because, you know, the different types of proteins, like egg white protein, that's a good protein. You know, and there are proteins that break down differently in different parts of our digestive system. You know, pea protein, that's one that's kind of balanced. You know, red meat does it. There's a lot of nutrients in red meat that vegans in particular and vegetarians in general don't get the nutrients that you were. Was it you? One of you said something about the heme products. Yeah, those are important for human beings. I just don't take any. And that Wonder Meat, whatever it's called, I forget the name of it.
Yeah, Beyond Burger, Impossible this
Beyond
and that.
Burger. Yeah. Yeah, they taste very similar. And what did they do? Well, they put heme in it. It's just like, and now it's expensive. It's like, go eat a burger from a cow. You know, if you have ethical reasons, then don't eat the burger from a cow. You know?
Well, yeah. Well, I think one reason I think that, or like a few reasons why I think that if you started eating meat, you would for sure meet that bench press goal, is because like I'd bet like my whole bank account on it. Like I think you would, I think you could for sure do it. Like I think meat is that powerful. Yeah, no, I think because creatine, as I'm sure both of you know, one of the most studied supplement, is proven to be beneficial when athletes take it. They get stronger when you take creatine in controlled experiments. And creatine is found in the muscle meat in the muscle cells of animals. So it would make sense because 20,000 years ago, we're probably eating pounds of meat and we're getting about probably 5 grams of creatine a day. And so which is why when you take 5 grams of creatine, you get pretty strong. And then like I understand that there's other sources of plant-based protein and there's pea protein and stuff like that. But the issue is that while it may have every amino acid in it, it doesn't have full amounts of that amino acid. Like for example, pea protein, it doesn't have cysteine, it doesn't have enough cysteine or methionine or like trip,
Arginine,
right.
citrulline.
Right. It doesn't have a lot. It doesn't have, and these things act as bottleneck factors. So you can only absorb as much protein as the least amino acid contains. So you're not getting the full range of protein. And in red meat, I mean, this stuff is just pure nutrition. It's pure nutrients. Some of the most nutrient dense food in the world. It's more nutrients in meat than in any plant. So it just absorbs straight into the body. Yeah, no, I think it'd be a cool experiment once you finish whatever you're doing now to start adding meat and see if you can meet that goal.
You know, if I choose to do that, I will do it under with a doctor's supervision, not to, you know, say, oh, you know, I'm going to die if I start eating red meat. I don't believe that at all. To make sure I do legitimize it, because who knows? Because it is an interesting concept, because I have not eaten red meat for almost 40 years. That's a long time. And it'd be interesting to see what it would do. I'm curious. So I'm
Yeah,
tempted to do it.
well, jumping straight into it is probably a bad idea. I mean, no, no,
Well,
it's not probably, it's definitely a bad idea. Like you can't just go 30 days meat. It wouldn't work just because your body isn't used to, it doesn't have the enzymes to break down. Your stomach acidity is probably not acidic enough, like just because we're eating plants that don't require a lot of it. So it would probably take a little bit of time easing into it, and then maybe eventually, I don't know, if you're up for giving it a try, it'd be cool. It'd be cool to see.
I'm still stuck on something that keeps talking to me in my head. So I got to ask you, Joey, this whole cow brain thing. What was that like? Thanks for bringing up AMALYA.
Oh, well, I just believe that eating nose to tail, eating all parts of the animal is what makes a lot of sense. It's what we would have done. We would have never given up the brains. That's probably one of the things that we would have eaten first, just because it's one of the most nutrient dense foods in the world. Just super high in DHA and just other very, very important compounds. So I just wanted to try. I've had a brain a couple times. Doesn't really gross me out at all. Like I enjoy it. So yeah.
What other organs? Have you been doing liver? What
Yeah.
other weird organs? And I think you said you had a head of an animal, a cow head or something, or sheep
Yeah,
head.
I had a lamb's head. I eat heart, uh, brain, spleen, liver, kidney, stomach, like anything I could get my hands on, I would eat from the animal. Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
You know,
And
it's interesting. Yeah, I'm sorry. You talked about the liver. People forget, you know, the liver is probably the best thing a person can eat from
Yeah.
an animal.
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
for
on
sure.
my show,
It's
I often mention Dr. Terry Wall. She was in a wheelchair. She was a vegan, I think a lot of lentils and rice, and she doesn't have multiple sclerosis anymore. And she was basically dying of it. And one thing she does, she says liver once a week, 6 to 8 ounces, and she has grass-fed beef every day. But David mentioned eggs. So I want to ask you both, what do you think of the egg white, the egg yolk? What do you think of eggs in general? Because the trend used to be before you were born, Jory, eggs are bad, or if you're going to have them have egg whites. That's why at Costco you can see the egg white containers, because we all thought, oh, the yellow is horrible.
Well, yeah, the reason why that myth was like perpetuated so heavily was because of the idea that cholesterol translates to, it said dietary cholesterol translate to LDL cholesterol, which then will clog your arteries and give you a heart attack, which has been thoroughly debunked. Like both of those points have been disproven, because cholesterol doesn't even increase your serum cholesterol. And even if it did increase your LDL, there's emerging evidence that LDL is inversely associated with mortality, and even high LDL is implied in people and is like helpful for people with psychiatric issues like bipolar, which has been becoming more established that LDL is protective in a lot of ways. So it was just bad science that the egg yolks are like unhealthy for us. I eat sometimes I don't even eat the whites. I just eat the yolks just for extra fat. I'll just, just give the whites to my mom or something.
David, he mixed his cow brain with 3 egg yolks, and that was it. I don't know why he did that, but I did notice
you
that. Very
joking?
nutritious.
Are you
No,
joking?
no, I'm serious. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
just
Well,
cooked them all in a pan. But
that sounds bad.
do you also not use butter, David? Do you use any eggs? Do you use butter?
You know, that's, you know, the recent information, and I'm talking about from doctors that I've been reading in the American Medical Association. They're talking about, you know, the saturated fats. They really aren't that bad for us. They're discovering this, and especially if it's in a grass-fed free range type of animal, whether you're drinking their milk, you turn to butter, you know, they're recommending about 10% or fewer calories from these saturated fats, which is basically a cautionary tone to go, don't overdo it, which, you know, which is smart, you know, moderation and everything. It's a pretty good idea. So I remember, Joey, your age, they were talking about how many things cause cancer. And then they go, well, it doesn't cause cancer now. And I liken it to the age of the universe. Like when I was a kid, it was 20 billion years old. And then they got a better telescope. Now it's 15 billion years old. And then they got a better telescope. Now it's 13.8. And now they settled on 13.6 billion years old. So the more information we get, the more the more time we spend eating different foods, different people, different genetics, then we'll get a better idea, because it's definitely not settled science, not in my opinion. And, you know,
I agree. I agree. It's definitely not settled science, and that's kind of the, like, there's so many misconceptions out there, and that's the reason why I'm like, well, if we don't know what's healthy and if we don't know what isn't, if there's all this conflicting science, why not just eat what we've eaten for forever? Like that's kind of my thinking. Like, why not just simplify it and just do the natural thing? I feel like that's just the best thing to revert to when there's so much confusion. But I mean, I understand that there's different approaches. I just believe that this is the one that makes like the most logical sense to me.
so you mentioned that a couple of times. How is it now? I don't know. I'm asking you
Yeah.
to, you know, cite some people that read the the nuts, the berries, the things that people, you know, the hunter gatherers,
Yeah.
typically the women are out gathering berries and nuts.
Mhm.
What about those people?
Yeah, those well, we've been in an ice age for a couple million years, so those things would have only come out seasonally. I'm not doubting that they existed, especially when in sunny months. Um, but that those things were definitely not year round. For a solid at least 9-10 months out of the year, there was no vegetation in a lot of parts of the world, which means that the only way that we could have possibly fed ourselves would have been through meat. I'm not doubting that certain parts of the world had more vegetation for more parts of the year than others. That's certainly the case, especially near the equator. But there's no doubt in my mind, and also the actual isotopic evidence of uh, like collagen measured in the uh bones of like ancient humans, you know, just showing that we consumed most of our protein from animal foods. But yeah.
And
What
David
is-
mentioned nuts. What do you think of nuts, Joey? Because I think there are some people are eating nuts and not realize it might be causing a problem in their gut.
Yeah, I think I mean, the nuts are part of the plant that are uh they defend the plant so the plant can make a fruit and germinate seeds. I mean, that I believe that they're just toxic. They're chemically defended. I don't if I were to eat any plant foods, it'd be fruit, just because they're the least anti-nutrients in fruit. It makes sense to eat some fruit. We would have always wanted fruit in the ancestral context. Whenever there was fruit, I believe we would have eaten it. To So yeah, that I don't like nuts, but I would eat fruit if forced to eat a plant food.
So what about your bowel movements? How often do you have them? How regular are you?
Once every day or two. Yeah, once every day or two. Because the thing is, yeah, because sometimes I go like 3 or 4 times a week. The thing is, and the reason for that is not due to constipation. It's just the food that I eat is just so readily absorbed. It's just it's basically pure nutrition. So there's nothing that really passes through. Yeah, I keep sort of saying that like the fiber, like it's the fiber that's indigestible that makes you have large stools. Because we can't digest it as humans. It just passes through, but while the meat is just absorbed in the small intestine, and we just use all of the nutrients in it pretty much.
David, do you want to say
probably-
something? Because I was going to say something about fiber, but you go first. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I want, you know, say something about fiber, but then Joey, I want to touch on the whole idea about the gladiators. The idea that the ancient gladiators were vegetarians. Go
I,
ahead.
I'm actually
Well,
not. I'm not too familiar with that. I do know that like there are stories about the Mongols and Genghis Khan and like those empires that just ate tons of meat and conquered the world. But I mean, I'm sure there are like I'm not really familiar with the gladiators actually.
Well, there you go. That's going to be your homework assignment.
Okay.
So
Okay.
regarding fiber, David, this is fascinating. Whenever people talk about fruits and vegetables, fiber is so important. I always direct them to the low carb down under group of doctors. And Dr. Paul Mason has this incredible slide, and people laugh at the end because they think it's a joke. And he says, look at the standard American diet, look at high fiber, and then look at carnivore. And the standard American diet has a good amount of constipation. High fiber diet has an incredible amount of constipation, and carnivore has zero. So we've all been sold maybe a bill of goods that you need to eat cereal because it's high in fiber. Well, who's promoting that? Nestle, Kellogg, and all these companies. Take your Metamucil. I had a friend, she had such severe constipation, the doctor said, well, you just need to take more Metamucil, more and more Metamucil. Instead, I say to people, have you ever looked at the studies? Look at the studies. What does fiber have to do with it? What these doctors say is it's like the freeway. You can have, a slow moving, normal freeway, or you can just bulk up the freeway and that causes a problem. That's what fiber does. It's bulking up your system. So if you're going many times a day, maybe it's too much fiber. I don't know. I don't mean you, anybody.
Yeah, no, Joey, when I was about your age, I went and looked, what the heck is in Metamucil? Why do people take this stuff? And, and I think it was Metamucil. I remember reading there were psyllium husks in there. So I went and did my research. What are psyllium husks? So I started taking psyllium husks. Oh yeah, that's just bulking that stuff up, staying really regular. And, so maybe do either one of you take psyllium husks?
I used to before I went carnivore. I'm not carnivore. I'm very flexible in what I eat, but I increased my red meats, and all of a sudden I was regular, and I wasn't before. So in the past, I would take powders and prunes, and I know magnesium citrate really helps people, but now I don't need to do anything. So I realized, gosh, these people are not thinking about fiber. We all just think we need tons and tons of fiber, and it's a trend. People won't give it up, but based on the studies, it doesn't seem to be the case. It doesn't seem to be that we need fiber. And Joey was doing a video actually where what's that guy's name? The vegan that he was on a show and you were analyzing this vegan, very popular doctor, Dr. Gregory, maybe?
Oh, Michael Greger.
Michael Gregory. And he's laughing, oh, these people aren't getting enough fiber. But when you look at the studies, it seems to be the opposite of what he's saying. You don't need fiber. You can survive on meat.
Regarding fiber and psyllium husks, so at 55 years old, you're underway there, Joey. when you get a colonoscopy, they make you drink all this stuff and they clean you out, and he's taking, they put you under. I don't know why that happens. And he finishes and he said, do you eat a lot of psyllium? I said, yes. He goes, it's really clean in there. He said, and the walls in there are darker than they would typically be. I go, was that bad? He goes, no, it's just psyllium husks start staining your inner walls of your colon. It's like, okay. So, I can say, I just thought of something else, but I can say from my eating fiber, specifically supplementing it with psyllium husk, I'm clean in there. And a lot of people my age are not. And, the studies, I don't know how true it is. I'd love to know if either one of you researched it, that the idea when you're 50 years old, you have I don't know if I believe, I really don't believe it. 5 pounds of undigested meat. Remember that? Is that true? Does anybody know?
I think it's a myth. I don't think we have anything in there. I think it clears out.
Oh no, it does. Yeah, it doesn't say there. It's just like, yeah, fully absorbed. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's anything staying in the gut. But my last question, I don't know if Joey or David, you have more questions. I want to ask you, David, especially since you're sort of vegan vegetarian. Do you have any aches and pains, and how are your teeth all these years?
Teeth are great. It's odd. I don't have aches and pains. But I just don't well, I mean, let me take that back. I mean, places where I played sports and I've injured myself. Yeah. I mean, those things talk to me every now and then. But, and I think the thing that I've done regularly, and I work out 5, 6, or 7 times a week, and I've been doing it nonstop since 1975. I mean, I don't miss times. And I think that has a lot to do with my health. You know, and in addition to eating, you know, what I consider to be healthier foods, at least more easily digested foods, but I could be wrong. I mean, you know, maybe I start eating red meat slowly and I get stronger. I don't know. I don't know because I haven't tested it.
Well,
But it's worth doing.
I'd love to come back in sorry to interrupt you. Please hold that thought. I'd love to come back in a month or two and interview again, all three of us, and see how your blood markers change, how you changed in the gym. What other markers would we look for? If you start to eat meat, you know, maybe things will do better or maybe they won't. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many markers. The typically the way the insurance companies pay for the annual physicals is so almost useless. It is like the minimum. Like I did it this year, and then I went and got an expanded one. I got tested for, I think, 80 different markers, and it just showed one after the other, and most of them are great. They're, you know, just I'm eating too many nuts and seed oils. I don't know. Besides that, that was about it. Not too many oddball things. But and then I take a bunch of supplements too. You know, like you were saying, Joey, about, you know, we you know, vegetarians, vegans. I think everybody should take supplements. Quite
What do you
frankly,
take?
because
Because I don't
started-
feel I need supplements. Do you need supplements,
Yeah.
Joey? What are you missing?
No, there's no reason why there would be a requirement for that. Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense that an optimal way of eating would require any sort of supplementation. It's just something that we've never done. There's no reason why it would be beneficial if yeah, I don't think so.
But Joey, you do recognize that at your age, your body is naturally producing these. And as a person ages, their body starts reducing the ability to produce these naturally. It's like a fruit tree or a vegetable. It's after a time, it no longer produces fruit. It just expends itself and then it dies. But in the early ages,
yeah, I mean, I recognize that, but there's decent evidence. I don't know if either. I mean, I know Amalia, you're religious. I don't know if you are, Dave. But there's pretty solid evidence that early humans live till about 150 years old. So eating, you know, properly, and the anthropological data, some is in line, some not so much. But I think that eating a natural human diet, living as naturally as possible, getting in the sun, being grounded with the earth, doing some exercise here and there, being around family, just doing all these good things for us would allow us to live till 150. And we didn't use supplements then. So I don't think an ancient person taking supplements would have benefited from them. I think if anything, they would be harmful just because they're highly industrialized, processed little pills that I just can't conceptualize being helpful in any way, assuming you're eating properly. To a vegan, of course, taking a B12 supplement, it's going to be a game changer. It'll help them. But for me, if I'm getting every nutrient and I'm eating the whole animal, full of nutrients, full of vitamin C, anything that you could possibly imagine, I mean, I don't see why a supplement will be necessary. I think taking a supplement is a sign of a deficient diet. That's just not an optimal one.
do you believe there's an actual optimum diet?
Well, every species, there's no variation like within a species. Every species eats the same thing. I think humans, it might be a little bit more nuanced, but I think generally we're animal based. Like regardless of where we're from, what human we are, there's not a single human on this earth that would thrive on a plant-based diet relative to a meat-based diet. So clearly you're thriving. You know, you look amazing. You clearly feel amazing. It's all going well for you. But I think relative to an animal-based diet, there's nobody that would thrive on a plant-based one.
You asked whether or not do I believe in some higher power.
Mm-hmm.
The answer is, since I was a little kid, that's been like that. Now that's my focus. That's the subject I love talking about, because I've read all the world scriptures and sacred books. I've read quantum physics, reading quantum physics since I was, since 1985. Now I think that is a huge part of my life, and
Cool.
so is family.
Cool. That's
I should
nice.
mention, you can see how open-minded David is. And so hopefully we can get together in about 3 months, 2 or 3 months. We can all maybe share our own blood tests, see the before and
Yeah.
after. I don't know if you have before, Joey, but I want to let you all know, David's been on my show before because in Colorado, he was riding a fat tire bike and he was hit by a car and he was actually decapitated. It's called an internal decapitation, which is impossible to survive. So he actually had a near-death experience. That's how I started my show, to help people with their anxiety and doom. I first started with spirituality. I'm moving more into foods. That's how Joey and I got together. But if you look below and you click on my show on Growth Factor, type in David's name or near-death experience, and he has an incredible story. That's why he's so open-minded, as you could tell.
Yeah, well, I hope that I gave you something to think about maybe, and you know, I'd like to see what happens if you were to start eating red meat. And if you have any sort of like concerns, I would just love to hear them and
Yeah.
and address them if you have any more.
No, but you know, I love what you're doing. I love that you're 18 years old. You really are going to be a light in this community that's your age group and younger and older. I love it. So, you know, keep doing what you're doing. And I personally believe you're going to expand into other things. Because
Yeah,
you clearly do like doing research.
I do.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right.
So,
Well,
all right.
it was great talking with you all, and Amalia, I'll send you the link to the video.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Joey. It was
Sure.
fun.
Have a good day,
Thank you.
guys.